Well, we've been going hammer and tong with them for the last couple of months in the Premier League, and today at home park we host Arsenal in what could end up being a title deciding game before taking part in the quarters of the Champions League, and we're back off to Italy. Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 39 of the Waine Train here on Sean Does FM with Plymouth Argyle. I hope you're doing well, and as I said, coming up today two big games. First up, a top of the table clash in the Premier League, and it could be a massive one with only 8 games left in the season. Off the back of this, as we take on Arsenal at home park, and then we play the first leg of our Champions League quarter-final, which is back in Italy. As well as that too, we have had a youth intake here at Plymouth Argyle as well, so if you're looking forward to all that coming up in today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well. It is greatly appreciated. Off the back of yesterday's episode, which was our round of 16 tie in the Champions League against Inter Milan. If you missed that one, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. We have played 2 games since then, and first up, it was a quarter-final in the FA Cup where we took on Manchester City at the Etihad. And considering that we were taking on bottom of the Prem West Brom off the back of this, I feel like this was a game where we could put out a stronger team than I usually would. And as you can see, they're off the back of an attempted overhead kick by Diamonde. Sarawi, from a very similar spot to where he scored those goals yesterday against Inter Milan, did give us a 1-0 lead. Unfortunately, not too long off the back of that, Kevin De Bruyne did make it 1-1, and that was the scoreline for most of the second half. But then the Waine Train, from a penalty, which we did get with 20 minutes left, he tucks that one away, and we're going through to the semi-finals of the FA Cup. As you can see there, wasn't quite our full-strength first team, but still, we were able to put out quite a few of those players with that next game coming up being against West Brom and also Man City. They were affected somewhat by injury going into this game, and also John Stones was forced from the field quite early, and Erling Haaland as well, playing on an orange injury. So those factors may have helped us out, but thankfully, in what was a fairly even game, albeit XG-wise, we're certainly the better team, albeit that might have been helped out by that penalty. We do pick up a 2-1 win and are through to the semis of the FA Cup. And off the back of that, we did play that game, which was against West Brom, and this was a reasonably comfortable performance as we picked up a 3-1 win, 2 goals by Nikola Iliev either side of half-time. And then just to make sure of it, the Waine Train, he picked up another right on the 90-minute mark. They grabbed one back pretty much immediately from the restart, but by that point, it was just a consolation one, and we pick up a 3-1 win to make sure that we're keeping pace with Arsenal at the top of the Premier League, albeit we do have that big game in hand on them, and if we can win this one today, first up in the episode, that will mean that we jump above them on the table with that game in hand, which would be a very nice position to be in indeed. So a big game coming up first up in today's episode, but before then, we have had a youth intake here at Plymouth Argyle, and to be fair, it was actually quite a good one. As you can see there right at the top, we've got a player who's almost first team ready in Luke James, a Welsh right winger who kind of looks like a little bit of a Gareth Bale regen. He's got 2-star current ability and 5-star potential. He is a really good get in this year's youth intake, albeit not too sure how much of him we'll see long term in the safe, considering I'm actually leaning towards this being the last season of the Waine Train, but still, that's a very high potential player with good current ability, and he scored all 5 goals in a 5-1 win over the under-18s in the trial match. Definitely a player there who we could use if we have some issues at right wing, which we do actually going in to today's episode in terms of one player in particular. On my luggage, the player that we did sign on transfer deadline day, he's gone back to his home nation of Bosnia because he's not settling in too well. So because of that, Luke James actually could potentially feature in the next little while here at Plymouth Argyle. And as you can see, that transfer value is very high as well. So a great get for us there in this season's youth intake, as well as that 2 other players with decent potential. Dave Robertson, who is a English left wing with 1.5-star current ability, 4.5-star potential. He also looks decent. And down a little bit further, we've got a central attacking midfielder from Northern Ireland in Phil Anderson. The rest of the players, not too much potential, but we are signing quite a few of them to bulk up numbers in the under-21s and the under-18s. But certainly Luke James is a player who, if you take over this save when I do leave the file come the end of the series, could be one that you do end up having a lot of fun with. And also, of course, we have had the draw now for the quarterfinals of the Champions League. As I mentioned in the intro, we are back off to Italy. In today's episode, we're taking on Jose Mourinho's Roma, and to be fair, this actually was one of the kind of draws that we could have had, as these guys currently find themselves 15th in Serie A. They are pretty safe from relegation, 12 points clear of the teams who are down in that zone, but still, that is pretty average for a team who have made their way into the final eight of the Champions League, and they are trailing Inter Milan, the team we got past yesterday, by 22 points. So I'd like to think we can make our way through to the final four of the Champions League this season. So some good news there in terms of the draw, as long as we do get the job done off the back of this first game of today's episode, the big one in the Premier League. And also off the back of that, we then take on Bournemouth, albeit that one at home park. I'd like to think should be a good result, even though Scaloni's got those guys playing pretty good football, even though they are down in 13th. In terms of injuries going in to today's episode, there are a couple, but to be fair, most of them don't impact the first team too much. Belumi's still out for a fair while, as per usual this season, with a dislocated shoulder. Paul Tate's not registered for the Champions League, and to be fair, fifth choice having come in for Sebastian Helsner, more of a long-term project here at Plymouth Argyle. But one David Mosquera is out with a back strain he suffered in that defeat in the first leg against Inter. Not quite right for this Arsenal game, but it does mean that someone like Diogo Spencer can cover as our backup right backs. Not too bad there in terms of our injuries going in to today's episode, and hopefully we can make it back-to-back wins over Arsenal this season after, of course, we beat them 4-1 in our second game, having switched to a standard defensive line at the end of last week. If we can produce a similar performance here at home park, which I'm hopeful of, that would see us go a fair chunk of the way towards hopefully picking up the Premier League this season, albeit still a wee way to go off the back of this game, especially considering that we're taking on the likes of Aston Villa, Liverpool and Man City in our last couple of games, and those last two are away from home. So hopefully we can win this one at home park, just in case we do start to drop points on the road. In the latter stages of the Premier, we'll come back shortly and hopefully go back on top of the Premier League, or at least pick up a draw to make sure we keep that gap to 3 points with a game in hand as we take on Arsenal. And here are the team sheets for this big top-of-the-table clash in the Premier League. Just one change to our usual first-choice 11 for us, and that is Alan Obando starting over Nikola Iliev. Iliev has been in great form, but is a bit tired on a heavy workload. We'll see if Obando can get the job done. Iliev, though, is on the bench. Arsenal coming to this one in some great form and are going with a 4-3-3, but hopefully we can pick up a win and jump back above them on top of the table with a game in hand. And it's taken 20 minutes for the first highlight of this big game, and unfortunately it does look like it might be in favour of the visitors in Arsenal, and Declan Rice makes his way forward. Some good short passing here on the edge of the box, and Ødegaard there gets off a shot. Thankfully, the woodwork makes sure it doesn't find its way into the back of the net, as it did beat Tobias. Now Sarawi there off the back of that clearance. A pretty cynical shove in the back, but thankfully no yellow card, and actually a chance here for Milinkovic-Savic from a free kick, but not a great start here in terms of the highlights that we're seeing. Up until then, stats-wise, actually felt like we might have been slightly on the front foot, but thankfully that free kick not too threatening, and it's still 0 all halfway through the first half. And just about to make our way now into the last 5 minutes of this first half. Still quite an even game, only that one highlight that we did see where Arsenal did have a chance, albeit, as I say, that a corner in their favour. Saliba on a yellow card does get his head on the end of it, but thankfully Tobias yet again with a comfy save at his near post, and hopefully might be a chance for us here to do something on the counter-attack. Sarawi gets that ball from Gutierrez, but that is a poor pass looking for Obando, and Arsenal here might get all the highlights in their favour in this first half. They make their way now into our half yet again. Martinelli down that left-hand side. We are tightly marking a lot of their attackers in this game. They now find Saka on that right-hand side, also on a yellow card. Plays that one back to Declan Rice. Tight angle, but takes on the shot. Gets a lot of help that time from the woodwork. That might be justified off the back of that first chance through Martin Ødegaard. And we go 1-0 down just shy of half-time. And this wouldn't be a disaster, but would not be ideal. It's fair to say in this top-of-the-table clash, the fact we've got that game in hand does mean we could come back from a loss here, but that is a very good finish from Declan Rice. Rice baby gets that help from the woodwork, and he makes it 1-0 just shy of half-time, albeit now a highlight down the other end. Now Saliba's brought down Samardzic and is already on a yellow card. Samardzic's making sure here the referee knows about it. It's a second yellow. That could be a big game changer going in to half time. So we're 1-0 down, which is not ideal, but now playing the second half against 10 men. And because of that, might be time for us here to go a bit more attacking. Also some changes. Obando not doing too well up front. Iliev for him and Adam Randall for Som on that yellow card. But now we're going to go a lot more positive in the second half. We'll chuck that balling midfielder onto support and both our wing backs onto attack and really try and pick up 3 points from this game, because now I think that's the result that we need to go searching for. 1-0 down at half time, but playing the second half against 10 men. And it hasn't taken long in the second half for the first highlight, albeit it does look like here it might yet again be in favour of Arsenal, which would be pretty frustrating considering the numbers advantage. Good chance there. I think again that was from Milinkovic-Savic, but thankfully that one just goes wide of the post. Not a good start here in the second half off the back of that late red card to Arsenal in the first, but thankfully Parola will head that one away, and the Waine Train does quite well to keep that ball for us so far. Haven't seen too much of him in this first game of today's episode. Unfortunately, Samardzic does lose out on the ball there, and we are still 1-0 down, albeit now down the other end with a throw-in, and Sarawi starts to cut inside, floats that far post for Samardzic, but unfortunately his header goes just over the bar, and we're still trailing by 1-0. And very shortly off the back of that chance to Samardzic, he's now gone down to a red heart and is on a 6.4. So Morgan Whittaker can come on for him also. Might just make things a bit more sensible. Put Randall on to defend as that balling midfielder and try and hopefully grab some goals to win this game. And now Sarawi's actually down to a red heart. Facundo Farias will come on for him with Nestori Irinkunda still making his way back from injury. So that leaves just one sub for this last half hour as we still trail by 1-0, but thankfully might be a highlight here in our favour as we do look to play out from the back. Hopefully that's something we can do with this extra man, albeit the Waine Train there not quite switched on for that pass, which was played forward for him. And now Martin Uruguay went quite close in the first half, plays that one forward to Gabriel Jesus. Good chance there from just outside the box, but thankfully that shot is just off target, albeit still down 1-0 to the 10 men here of Arsenal, albeit now down the other end, and we do get the ball back here and look to camp inside of the current table toppers half, but hopefully that will change off the back of this game. But if it is to do so, we need a goal here pretty shortly. Gutierrez makes his way inside the box, squares that one for the Waine Train. Big chance, as the commentary says, absolute sitter, but big save there, I think, from Lunan in goal these days for Arsenal to keep it at 1-0. Now we put that one far post, but unfortunately no one home for us. That's that highlight over. Still trailing by 1-0. In fact, all the action here around the hour mark. Now a free kick in our favour. Des plays that one to Diamonde. And now Gutierrez up to Iliev off of the bench. What can he do? Back to Gutierrez. Makes his way forward. Picks out Iliev there. Inside the box. Back to Farias. He goes down, but thankfully we do keep the ball. Alex Scott tries to put that one top right corner. It comes off the woodwork. It's actually Truben in goal, not Lunan. Quite similar names. I think I'm getting the goalkeepers there mixed up between Arsenal and Sheffield United. But now only 20 minutes left in this game. Need to make a decision on our last sub. And the Waine Train there did miss a bit of a sitter. So we're going to take him off for Pizarro. Also go wider in attack and tell our guys to be more expressive and see if that might help us grab a goal back at least in these last 15 minutes. And just as we enter that period, there is a free kick here in our favour. Diamonde will pick out Des Diamonde these days on a yellow card. Those good short passing, and Whittaker picks out Iliev. He's onside, and that's a big goal now. Hopefully Arsenal might tire in the latter stages of this game, and we can pick up all 3 points, but at the very least, we should get something out of this game, albeit to be fair, we should be doing that, seeing as we've been playing against 10 men for most of the second half. A good attempted save there from Truben, but thankfully too much power on that shot from Iliev that still finds its way into the back of the net. And with 15 minutes left, it's all locked up. And just about to make our way now into the last 10 minutes of this game, we still are locked up at 1-1, and because of that, just going to try and put their Randall back onto a balling midfielder, onto support, and just see if that might help us grab a late winner. And we're now making our way into the last 5 minutes of this game. I've definitely found the ascendancy off the back of that red card late in the first half, and thankfully that goal to Iliev with 15 minutes left. But unfortunately still locked up at 1-1, albeit a highlight here, and we are keeping the ball. Facundo Farias makes his way down that left-hand side. Ball taken off him, but thankfully we keep it. Gutierrez plays that one back to Iliev. He plays it back to Farias. That shot takes a wicked deflection, but does beat Trubin in goal. That makes it 2-1, and thankfully, it looks like we're going to make the most there of that red card at Arsenal. And while we're here too, we are going to start to time waste quite a bit and go a lot more negative in terms of the player roles than we were for most of that second half. The wing-backs, they can go on to support the defensive midfielders on to defend, and also the wingers will put them onto support as well, and also put Pizarro onto support as a pressing forward, get the goalkeeper to slow things down. And I think that's all we want to do, try and hold on and pick up all 3 points there, but that could be a massive late goal, and that second yellow card to Saliba in the first half could end up being quite crucial in the title race this season, especially off the back of this too, as Arsenal, they're away to Chelsea. That's definitely a game where they could potentially drop some more points, but a bit of luck there with that shot from Farias, a big deflection, but Iliev off the bench has had a massive impact, a goal, and set that one up very nicely off the back of the initial play down our left-hand side. And thankfully, off the back of that late goal, we do hold on and pick up 3 massive points there at home park, and it does mean we will go back on top of the Premier League. We left it late against the 10 men, but thankfully come back from conceding that goal to Declan Rice. As I said, Nicola Iliev, very crucial in that second half for us once he did come off of the bench, and that is a good 2-1 win. Certainly not as well as we could have played, especially before that red card did come into play for most of the second half, but thankfully we do find a way to get the job done, go back on top of the Premier League. Hopefully off the back of this, we can consolidate ourselves there as we take on Bournemouth before that first leg of the Champions League quarters when we travel to take on Roma. And here are the highlights from that Bournemouth game, which did actually come off the back of an international break. Now, interesting highlight, this Irinkunda, here's a shot which comes off the post with 25 minutes left. Lindelof there for Bournemouth, interesting signing, tries to clear it, but Damien Pizarro off of the bench, he gets a hit on the end of it somehow and does beat the Bournemouth goalkeeper. That was a very fortunate goal, but thankfully was the one to make sure we picked up a 1-0 win at home park. Based on stats, a game that we certainly should have won, even though Bournemouth did have the higher XG somehow, but thankfully we pick up 3 points. As you can see, some interesting starting choices for that game. Some players needed a holiday off the back of the international break, and one of those does actually affect us going in to this first leg of the Champions League quarters, but thankfully that does mean now we have 3 points there on top of the Premier League of Liverpool. They've gone above Arsenal off the back of Arsenal dropping points at Chelsea, as we were hoping would happen. A 2-0 loss of Liverpool are now only 3 points behind us, as well as Arsenal, but we do have a game in hand over both of them, and even then our goal differential is quite strong compared to both as well. It does mean now that upcoming game in the league against Liverpool, that could also be a title decider, but that one could be a bit trickier as we do head to Anfield for that one. So thankfully did make the most of that win over Arsenal with a narrow one there over Bournemouth. And now we switch our attention to the quarterfinals of the Champions League, albeit going to have to do it with a little bit of an issue in one of our positions, and that is the striker that plays alongside the Waine Train as the advanced forward. First up, Alano Bando. He picked up an injury in that most recent game against Bournemouth a few days ago. He's out for one more day. We could start him if we really needed to. I did think about it because unfortunately, Nicola Iliev was tied off the back of the international break and has gone once we find him on a holiday coming back in 2 days. So that is definitely not ideal for the first leg away from home of a Champions League quarterfinal, but it does mean advanced forward-wise, we're a little bit thin for this first league. Also some injuries, as you saw there, to Morgan Whittaker, Tom Bishop, as well as that one that we had at the start of today's episode to Mohamed Baloumi. So it does mean a couple of players there registered for the Champions League cannot feature. So because of that, some interesting names make their way into the team sheet for this one. We're going to actually try Damien Pizarro alongside the Waine Train. He can play as the advanced forward because he just looks like he might be a little bit better than the Waine Train in that role. But apart from that, pretty close to full strength, albeit some interesting players on the bench for us here, including the likes of our new youth intake player in Luke James. We might even give him some game time off the bench if things are going quite well, but certainly interesting options we're going to have to use on the bench for this one with some of those injuries, and of course some players like Isaac Varel who could cover striker not being registered for this competition, but hopefully we can get the job done over a Roma team who these days have risen up to 11th in Serie A, but still they are well below the Inter Milan team that we did beat in yesterday's episode. So hopefully we can pick up a decent result here on the road to take back to home park for the second leg in tomorrow's episode, and we'll come back shortly and get stuck into the action in the Champions League quarterfinals. And here are the team sheets for this first leg of the Champions League quarterfinals. There are Roma, exactly the same formation as Inter Milan had in both legs of the round of 16. So to be fair, that was a perfect dress rehearsal for this one away from home. There we are, as we ran through before, just that issue in advanced forward. So Pizarro will start there alongside the Waine Train, but hopefully we can grab at least some parity from this one going into the second leg at home park, which will be coming up in tomorrow's episode. And just shy of the 15-minute mark, first highlight here is a corner to the home team. We try and deal with that danger at the near post, but unfortunately Pellegrini will get that ball back there for Roma in their traditional home uniform of the maroony red, and they make their way back and try and camp here inside our half. So far this has been a pretty even game, but first highlight does look like it's in favour of the home team, albeit we deal with that danger and Samaj is there a chance to try and get us on the counter-attack. Now Gutierrez plays that forward to Sarawi up to the Waine Train. Now some good short passing from us here. We might find some space down the right hand side, and we do through Serginho Dest. Can we grab an early goal here away from home? We put that one far post looking, I think, there for Sarawi. We can't, but Gutierrez starts to cut inside. We'll take on the shot, but good save there from Spiller in goal for Roma to keep it at 0-0, but encouraging start there with a chance on the counter attack. Now a corner in our favour. Samardzic puts this into the mix of Diamonde that time, goes for the header instead of the overhead kick. Unfortunately, easy save that for Spiller, and it's still 0-0 coming up the 20-minute mark. And short off the back of that opening highlight, yet again it's a corner here to Roma. They try and put that one near post, but thankfully deal with the danger, albeit a ball floated off the back of that towards the far post, and Gutierrez acts like a complete muppet and pushes one of the Roma players there in the back. Now I'm pretty sure that is a stone cold penalty. He won't get a yellow card for it, which is surprising, but that does mean that Tammy Abraham with a chance here to give Roma a 1-0 lead, but Tobias reads it beautifully. To be fair, not the greatest penalty, a little bit weak, and not even sure would have made its way into the bottom right corner, but that is a big lead off Tobias there, saving the skin of Gutierrez, albeit another corner here, and Bove with a shot, but to be fair, Tobias there gets forced into another really good save. So Tobias here coming up big for us in a couple of back-to-back highlights, but so far giving Roma far too many chances from these corners on that far side. Yet again, Bove with a chance on the edge of the box, but someone there was offside, and he also blasts that over the bar. But big penalty save from Tobias, and thankfully still locked up at 0-0. And getting close to half-time here in the first leg of this Champions League quarterfinal. As you can tell by that match momentum, apart from that penalty and that little spell that Roma had in and around that, thankfully Tobias came up with that save. We've actually been the team with the better momentum in this game, but it is 0-0, and to be fair, quite lucky that is the case. That big save from Tobias off the back of that silly push in the back from that corner from Gutierrez, and a couple of players out there are struggling. Som yet again on a yellow card. Randall can come on for him, and also Sarawi on a 6.3. We'll bring on Nestori in his place back from injury. We'll see what the chance mean that can do in this one in the second half, but that was a bit of an average first half. We'll tell the guys they need to be a bit more positive and a bit better creatively, and hopefully we can do something a little bit more in the second half, at least in terms of highlights that we do get shown. But to be fair, a draw going to the second leg wouldn't be too bad. Still locked up at 0-0. And about 10 minutes into the second half, first highlight here is a throw in our favour down our left-hand side. Now it is Parola who makes his way forward from centre-back to hold the ball. Plays that one over to Serginho Dest down that right-hand side, back to Diamonde, who had a little bit of a chance in the first half, albeit his header was a floating one. Now the ball goes forward to Samardzic, which will float that one across the face of the goal, but unfortunately that's not a great pass there, looking for Scott, and now a chance here for Roma to do something on the counter-attack. Uwar plays that one to Sabakan Abraham. This time hits the target again. Not the strongest shot, but that time does beat Tobias, albeit we are waiting here for a VAR check, but that did look like It might be onside. Just going to wait here though, and thankfully the players aren't celebrating. He was offside, so there we get away with one off the back of that poor pass down the other end from Samardzic, and it does remain 0-0, albeit off the back of that. We are going to make a couple of substitutions. A few players just struggling on 6.4s and 6.5s. First off, Buckley for Alex Scott, and we will bring on Farias instead of Alex Jones because Nestori can do a decent job out on that right-hand side. So unfortunately, no game time here for our young wonder kid through our youth intake. But off the back of that, Kunda now at right wing with a free kick, and that one doesn't go too far away at all from the top left corner. But still, this one's locked up at 0-0. And in a couple of minutes off the back of that free kick to Kunda, again, we might be on the attack here. Those changes might have helped us try and get here on the front foot of Fran, and we keep the ball here inside of the Roma half. Nice ball here for the Waine Train, but Spiller there with a really good save. That's a couple of chances in today's episode now the Waine Train's had that have been saved quite well from the opposition goalkeepers. And off the back of that, he's on a 6.4, but probably the smarter option here. Serginho Dest on a red card. We'll take him off for Mosquera, at least try and make sure we hold solid defensively and can go into that second leg with Roma having not scored a goal. 0-0 with 15 minutes left. And very shortly off the back of that final substitution, now looks like we're going to get a free kick here inside of the final third. Kunda takes this one quickly for Pizarro. That one not far away at all, but unfortunately just on the wrong side of the crossbar. And somehow still 0-0. And just about to make our way now into the last 5 minutes of this game. It's been quite an even one. Both teams with some fairly high XG, albeit Roma with that penalty. Certainly the team who'll feel like from this game they should take away a win, but a chance for us here to do something late on the counter-attack. And the Waine Train does have the ball. He finds Pizarro. That's a really good chance, but yet again Villa comes up with a big save for Roma. Both goalkeepers in this game really proving their worth. Of course, Tobias with that penalty save in the first half, and Villa with some really good saves in particular in the second half, both times down this end where we are at the moment. But Kunda with a corner, unfortunately, can't do anything from that. We make our way into 5 minutes of added time, still locked up at 0-0, albeit one more highlight potentially in this game, and it might be in our favour. We try and make our way out from the back. Kunda plays that one back to Mosquera. Now Buckley getting some rare game time in the Champions League. That is why poor pass, but thankfully Parola will tidy it up. And now Gutierrez makes his way forward down the left-hand side. Farias, who of course scored that big late goal in that top of the table clash first up against Arsenal. Now Pizarro does get in behind. He was onside too, so another really good save that from Villa in goal for Roma. So far, he's proving to be a big difference maker, as I said before, alongside Tobias. Now Kunda here takes his time on this late corner. Looks like we're going to play this one short. Farias finds Buckley, floats that far post, but unfortunately, Parola can't get his head on the end of that one. And Manini here gets a chance to do something on the counter for Roma, but thankfully can't go forward anymore. I think that will do it for this first leg. Now, to be fair, as we do wait eventually for full time, and there it is, a 0-0 draw I'm actually quite happy with, but had some big chances in that second half, albeit giving away a penalty, and with Tobias coming up with that big save. I think we've got to be happy with the 0-0 draw from that first leg. Somehow neither team scores a goal with XG pretty similar, around about the 2.5 marks, and big chances for both teams with pretty much identical stats in terms of those top three lines. But thankfully, Roma did miss that penalty through Tammy Abraham, at least in terms of a good save from our goalkeeper and Tobias. As you saw before, some big chances for us in that second half, but unfortunately, their goalkeeper also came up with some big saves, and it's 0-0 going into the second leg. Also, we're keeping an eye out on that result above, because we actually played the winner of that tie if we make it that far in the semis. Man City and Real Madrid currently locked up at 1-1. We go into the second leg with no goal scored for either team. So a pretty entertaining goalless draw there, second up in today's episode, and as I said, to be fair, that's not a bad scoreline going into the second leg back at home park, where so far our record in the Champions League has been perfect. Hopefully that will continue against Roma, and obviously Kasper Tobias, a big factor for us in that first half with that penalty save off of the attempt from Tammy Abraham, and as I said, their goalkeeper as well as Villa also had a very good game as well, but it does mean all to play for first up in tomorrow's episode when we come back for that second leg at home park, and hopefully we can make our way through to the final four of the Champions League. But that will do it for today's episode. Two big wins in the Premier League, especially first up, coming from behind against 10 men of Arsenal to beat them 2-1 and then a draw in the first leg of that Champions League quarter-final. If you enjoyed today's episode, which also included that UEFA take, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well. Obviously, as I said, first up tomorrow, we'll come back and get through the second leg of that Champions League quarter-final against Roma off the back of a game that we should be winning away against Fulham in the Premier League, and off the back of that, another cup competition, and we'll try and make our way through to our second straight FA Cup final. We're taking on Newcastle in the semis of that competition. We beat them just before we won the Carabao Cup a couple of episodes ago this week, but of course they did beat us 3-0 earlier this season at St James's Park, with that one being at Wembley. That could be an interesting game. The other semi-final is between Man United and Arsenal, so certainly probably the kindest draw that we could have got, albeit Man United not very good this year in game, but hopefully now that we've gone quite deep in all the competitions that we've been in this season, we might find a way to try and lift all 4 trophies, touch wood, but we'll try and keep hopes alive tomorrow as we take on Roma in the second leg of the Champions League quarters and also play the FA Cup semi against Newcastle United. So until then, thank you very much for watching, keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.